go ahead and kick us off. And we'll run a similar drill as to what we did yesterday. So you got us on the invocation this one, and then I got the next one. Thanks, brother.
Good evening, and welcome to our first public hearing for Small Cities Community Development Block Grant, May 12, 2026. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Light, can you give us an invocation, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day that you've given us, Lord. I thank you for all that you bless us with, Lord. I thank you for this great city that we're a part of, Lord. I thank you for the opportunity to be able to be a part of this, Lord, to help the citizens of this great city we live in, Lord. I ask that you please help us make good decisions as we go forward, Lord. Give us wisdom in making decisions, Lord. Please bless this meeting tonight, Lord. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Landowski, will you lead us in the pledge?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Drew, you want to give us a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Romano.
Here.
Councilman Lovendustin.
Here.
And city manager is here, and Ms. Wendy Harris, our office manager, is here as well. And Bo Wright, deputy city manager, is here as well. So though we don't need a quorum for this meeting, we appreciate both of you making it to hear if we do get any public comment, but if not, just understand a little bit better about what the spread is and what's possible under a community development block grant. So appreciate it.
Great. So the action item is to open a hearing to receive citizen views concerning the community's economic and community development needs. Do you want to go through the...
Just want to go ahead and open up the public hearing, Madam Mayor, and then I'll introduce our guest for the presentation.
So sure, I'd like to open up the hearing
Thank
to
you.
receive any, you're going to present, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And so, Madam Mayor, I'd like to introduce Ms. Melissa Fox. She's helping us out as we go through this grant application process, and Ms. Fox is going to give us a presentation on the Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Program.
Hi, good evening. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is just to notify the city as well as the residents of the city's availability to apply for a Small Cities Community Development Block Grant. The city of Keystone Heights is eligible to apply for a Small Cities Community Development Block Grant. There are 4 categories that you can apply for. The first is a housing rehabilitation, and that's where the city would go in and rehab or replace owner-occupied low to moderate income homes within the city limits. The second is a commercial revitalization. That's where you would do streetscape, sidewalks, pedestrian malls, facade work to your downtown commercial area. In this case, the city limits would be the service area, and it would need to be a minimum of 51% low to moderate income. The third is a neighborhood revitalization. That's where you address infrastructure items in residential LMI areas. You could do water line replacement, sewer line replacement, new sewer hookups, new water hookups. You could do sidewalks, you could do parks, street improvements, different things like that. The beneficiaries must be 51% low to moderate income for application threshold. So what we would say is if you're going to pave 2 blocks of city road, it would be the residents living along those 2 blocks. 51% of those residents would have to be low to moderate income. And the fourth is an economic development. That's where you would provide infrastructure on city easement property to facilitate a new business coming into the town or the expansion of an existing business. Business must create long-term jobs and be included as a developer in the application. 1 full-time equivalent job must be created for each $34,999.99 being requested. I'm not sure why they just can't say 35,000, but you know.
Much better.
And just some
Used car salesman.
yeah, some examples of that we've worked on is we've worked with a Love's Travel Stop. We've worked with a couple of different communities. The one in Hawthorne, they needed a groundwater storage tank. So City of Hawthorne applied for a CDBG grant, got the money to run that line out, and then also put in that groundwater storage tank for that Love's to open. And in return, Love's agreed to hire low to moderate income residents in the area. So Another one that we're currently working on is the city of Chiefland is actually looking at bringing in a grocer to the city. So we're currently working with them to see if there is perhaps a way we can bring in a grocery store to the city of Chiefland. So different things like that. They need a traffic signal. You can do a deceleration lane, different things like that. You can't do anything on private property, but you can do, stuff on public right of way that would entice that business to come in. So when we talk about income limits and low to moderate income, those are set by HUD. Every year they update them. They just recently updated the ones for 2026. So the next page kind of shows you what those income limits are. So for instance, a family of 4 living in Keystone Heights could make no more than $86,950. Anything under that is considered low to moderate income. In every application, there are points that you can score to make your application a little bit better. For leverage points, every $2,000 of city funds results in an extra point in your final score, up to 25 points. So for $50,000, the city can get an extra 25 points. The local community can exceed the 50,000, you just don't get any more points. For neighborhood revitalization and commercial revitalization projects only, if you, at the time of application submission, turn in engineered stamped construction plans and specifications, and you have applied for all of your permits, you'll get an extra 50 points in your application for being considered shovel-ready. The local government cannot be reimbursed for shovel-ready design costs with CDBG funds, even if the application is funded. So there's 2 main steps, basically, in an application. There's other things you can do for points, but the first is to advertise and hold a first public hearing to obtain public comment on what type of project the public thinks you should go after. That's what we're here for tonight. And then number 2 would be to advertise and hold a second public hearing. And it's at that second public hearing where we've defined a project, we've pretty much written the application, and we're presenting a copy of the application to the public for comment, as well as to council for approval to submit. And at this point, we can open it for any public comment if there is any.
Madam Mayor, do you open it up for public comment?
Yes, I'd like to open up for public comments. Anybody have anything to ask or add?
Madam Mayor, we do not have any written submissions at this point. I'm looking out in the audience and I'm not seeing anybody that's super eager to hop up and give any comments on this at this time.
Okay.
You're pretty good at asking questions.
Yeah, I know. I'm just, so I'm looking at this cutoff on the income, on the median income to be considered, you said, within 2 blocks of the main area.
Yeah, that's just if you're doing a, that was just for like doing street improvements or something like sidewalks. If you're doing water line replacement, it would essentially be the same thing. Wherever you're running that water line, 51% of those residents would have to be low to moderate income.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing a park, if it's not considered a city park, if it's like a smaller park, maybe a neighborhood park, we would define service area. Usually, like if you have a 4-lane or something like that, that kind of restricts people from walking to it. But we would determine what the service area is, and then we would determine if it's 51% low to moderate income.
So even if it's a acquisition to a piece of real estate, a building?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
When do you have to apply by? Is there a due date?
Oh, there is. It's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Day
Yes.
after we have the second.
Yeah.
That's why we're having the meeting on the 19th.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Florida Commerce,
Okay.
they kind of put this one out there, didn't give any guidance. Typically, a CDBG is capped. You're either a 600, a 650, 700, or a 750. In this case, City of Keystone Heights is eligible for $700,000.
Okay.
That's usually what you can, however, they have an executive order from the governor that lifts that. So they're trying to get, they have about 22 to 24 million to award out under this funding cycle. They didn't really provide a lot of details until probably almost the end of April. So this has been a very quick turnaround. We're really pushing to get everything completed and ready to submit next Wednesday. But yes, typically we have, like 75 days to
Right.
kind of,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty quick.
but in this case, we
And
did not.
You're going to help us write this.
Yes. Mhm.
Excellent.
And our services are free of charge.
And-
We do not charge for, we don't charge for writing applications.
Um, And what guidance have you been given already from the city of Keystone Heights?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, if Mr. Booth wants to go over what a city, staff proposed project is, and then,
Absolutely, I'll jump in there. And so, Councilman, as you recall, back in March, I asked y'all for approval for $70,000 to write a historic preservation grant for acquisition of a historic property to be turned into a museum. Part of that $7,000 was, I don't know, $1,500 to ask Chinmore and Associates to do. Hold on, Hanson Engineering. I get all my different engineering firms confused. To have Hanson Engineering also look at other funding opportunities that we could look at. And so as they were going through that, we were setting conditions to put in for a state historic preservation grant, and that subset that we'd asked them for, they completed that. And they kind of rank ordered likely what would be our best opportunities. And in that rank ordering, the Small Cities Community Development Block Grant popped into that. And I was like, ooh, okay. And in their assessment, they said, but unfortunately, it was supposed to be turned in on the 6th of April or something like that.
of May, yes.
Of May. And then when I happened to just go on the website and read about it, without telling anybody, I don't think, they changed that date out to the 20th. And I said, whoa, maybe we're still in the hunt for this thing. But that's kind of driven us to move quickly. As part of that, we determined that we can ask for a community center as part of the community development block grant, and there's opportunities to also apply for blight reduction. We don't necessarily know that under the low to moderate income categories that Keystone Heights is going to qualify without going out and doing a very specific, which you can, survey of residents in the area where you're trying to work to neck it down, because what we have to rely on is just a generalization of the survey that's already been done.
Right.
And we may not likely be competitive under that, but under blight reduction, underneath the federal standards, the HUD standards, and then underneath the states, we think we can, because we have a community redevelopment area that was established to eliminate blight in the area. The proposed site that we're looking at doing this at, acquiring, is within the community redevelopment area. And so we think that that's the right route to go, but obviously we want to go through the right process, which we're doing today, which is get any other feedback, even if it's under a short time constraints that we're all under, see if there's any other feedback out there. But the staff's recommendation to the council is going to be, let's go after procurement of a facility downtown. It's going to be it's as a matter of fact, it'll be announced in the paper. The location of that facility is the former firehouse, the volunteer fire department. We've been in discussions with the owner for quite a while. His wife are interested, and so the way that this would work, let's say we put in, if you approve us to put in for the grant on the 20th, if we were selected for the grant for acquisition and we met all the qualifications, we'd have to go through the process at that point to get the facility real estate appraisal done and all the procurement process. There has to be an environmental assessment that's done based on community development block grants. Any project that's done under this program has to have an environmental assessment done. It would likely take up to a year after knowing that we have received a grant that we could get to the point where we could actually do that acquisition. But this is the best way to proceed. I've spoken with the owner. They're in concurrence with moving forward in this process. It's just now we've got to go through that process, pull it all together, and present it to the city council for approval after we obviously close out this meeting.
So how long would it, you say it's going to take a year before we know if we have approval?
They are trying to get these funds on the street as quick as possible. So we're being told that they would probably be announcing awards in June. I'm thinking it's probably going to be more likely July. The next step, if you've moved forward into the next step, you would get what's called a request for a site visit. It would be a virtual site visit, but they would just come on, and if there's any questions they had in the application, they would clarify them then. They would kind of go over what the process is. So if you get a request for a site visit, you've kind of moved into the next, you're in potential funding range. And then the governor likes to make these awards, so the governor would set up a time where he's gonna go to one community and just pass out checks for that. And then after that, you would be given a contract from Florida Commerce for this. Yeah.
So,
I would think probably within 4 months, we would know whether or not you're going to be funded.
okay. So is Secretary Kelly involved in this, since he's Secretary of Commerce?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We have a good
Yes.
relationship with him.
Okay, perfect. And I was gonna say too, reach out to
We've
your
met a couple of
legislators.
times, actually.
Reach out to your legislators because,
Okay. And he loves Keystone.
okay, it never
Right, Debbie?
hurts. It never hurts to have your legislators kind of put
Okay.
pressure on them to, fund projects. So,
Okay.
and like Mr. Booth said, typically under a normal cycle, we would have been able to perform a door-to-door survey. It's not feasible in the amount of time we have. And unfortunately, your census data shows that you're less than 51% low to moderate income. We might have been able to get that number up. We typically can when we do door-to-door surveys. But since we don't have time for that, we are gonna put this one in, we can put this in under slum and blight.
Great.
So,
Sounds awesome.
and putting it, and this could go in as a commercial revitalization, which is not nearly as competitive as a neighborhood would be. Because you're in a CRA area, we could put this in under a commercial and it not be nearly as competitive. You'd have a better shot.
Great.
And
Okay.
we did, Hanson did reach out and speak with the state. And this is not, typically, I think most are done underneath the community, typically not going under a blight request
Right.
versus low to moderate income.
Mhm.
So we're going, there's risk
Mhm.
with this route. But, so I'm not saying it's all, peaches on this one. We know there's risk with going this route and going after it. But when they talked to the state, we were able to describe, it being in a CRA area, the reasons of blight that were established under state standards that established our community development area. And so we're confident that we're going in with the right argument.
Okay.
It's just gonna understand how, the state sees it as competitive or not.
But definitely reach out to your legislators. Definitely reach out to them, tell them you've, put this in and you would really appreciate their support in getting this, project funded.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds great. Thank you.
If you could help us by giving a phone number or something, so our legislature, we can tell them where to call in or where to email or whatever.
Should we read, because I've got Secretary Kelly's email and cell phone.
Yep.
We'll get that. We'll reach out to
Yeah.
the staffs and make
Okay.
sure we get it all synchronized. As soon as we submit it,
Yes.
we'll do I'm sure we'll get a document number for the ask and make sure that they have what they need
Great.
to,
Yep.
tell
Make
Tallahassee.
make their job easy to
Correct.
contact and
Mhm.
support us.
Yes.
You can tap on the governor's shoulder and say, hey, I need some help here, don't you? Right?
So, there's things you probably know, but I just want to make sure. That property has been a problem because it is not up to code. And everyone who's looked at it, or the people who bought it, they realize there's so much work that would have to be done. Particularly if you want to use the second floor. Oh my goodness, you may have to demolish the whole second floor to rebuild it. It's a big deal. Is that something you're aware of and can put in there? Because that's gonna increase, not just the purchase price, but now when we go to make it usable, you may have to spend a similar amount to do that.
This is for the acquisition
Yes.
costs only. When we build the ask,
Yes.
it's for the acquisition of the property.
Nothing else.
It's acquisition, grant administration, and any of the kind of closing costs, the
Right.
cost of doing the environmental survey.
Yeah.
When you take the acquisition route, those are the only things that we can put in for the cost. I did ask.
The good news on that is, even though you're just, this should be a relatively quick process. Typically, CDBG projects take at least 3 years to complete.
Uh-huh.
This one, you should be able to, next funding cycle, get back in line and we can apply for the renovation of that. And what we could do is we could actually do, we would have time to do a door-to-door survey, probably get your LMI numbers up.
Okay.
And so that way you would kind of be in a better
I see.
position, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
and then one other question was, and I,
Councilman, real quick, I did speak with the owner. They did bring at least the electrical up to code.
And then
Okay.
there's that new roof.
on both floors?
He said the electrical's up to code.
Okay.
And they put a new roof on it also, didn't they? James?
I don't think so. But my gut tells me it's gonna need a new
Electric is
roof
big.
looking at it.
Okay. electric's a big piece.
But if there is another executive order that is, issued on this and they remove the cap again next year, then you could apply for, we have some communities who are applying for 5.5 million. So, it is something that, hopefully, we have been pushing for Florida Commerce to raise these limits anyways, because you just don't get a lot. 700,000 sounds like a lot of money, but when you're out there doing it, it is not. So, but yeah, definitely, something that we could, get this acquisition completed and get it closed out and get you back in line.
Right. So I think it's important we do one thing at a time, but you've also alluded to septic to sewer, which is what we're gonna start here in 9 minutes.
Yep.
And one of the numbers that's been kicked around is $20 million to get everybody in the city up to code. But we have talked about a phased approach, doing one section here and one section there, that kind of a thing. But that's a different approach because it's residential, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that would be considered under the neighborhood revitalization, where you would go in and you would, construct new sewer lines, and then you would hook those residents up to the sewer.
Right.
And sewer does not go far. I don't know if you have looked at the cost of running new sewer lines, and but it's, but it's like you said, we could do it in phases.
Right.
Yes, you would not have to, certainly, you could choose an area, and we could start in an area that maybe is more low to moderate income than some other areas. Start there, and then, start working on an application for that.
Okay. And my assumption is, especially because of the short timeline, that we should just focus on the one acquisition, and then perhaps maybe next cycle look at maybe 2 applications and then 2 separate.
Yes, and typically, under a normal cycle, you're only allowed to apply for 1, and you have to have your current one closed out before you can apply again. However, they lifted that this time, so it's very possible. They've lifted it the past 2 cycles. They lifted it last year as well as this year. So it's very possible that they'll do the same thing again next year, and you could put in for 2 applications. And you wouldn't have to necessarily choose which one you would want funded over the other. You could just put both of them in and see kind of where it lands. But yeah, you would not have time at this point to get a cost estimate up for septic to sewer, and survey the area to make sure it's LMI. But it is definitely something that you can pursue CDBG funds with.
Councilman, I would say, I think the last time, if I remember roughly, the last time the city put in and used for it might not have been a small cities community development block grant, it was back in 2016 or 2017. And it was more, I think it was a hurricane recovery for roofs and things of that nature. But I don't see that there's any reason why, as soon as we either get LMI or blight reduction qualifications, we should have a CBDG open at any given time. We should not let a cycle go where we don't have some form of application or something open.
Absolutely.
With the spectrum of what it can do, that Melissa's talked us through, it is a Swiss Army knife of grants for everything that we're talking about.
We've had some communities that we've worked with for 30 years, and we close them out and get them back in line, close them out and get them back in line, so it's one of those things that you want to keep an open CDBG at all times.
You don't happen to know, is that a property already connected to city water and city sewer or not?
It's downtown, and it was
it's in the right area.
It's there. I didn't specifically look, but I think it has to be based on what we did down there.
Or probably in our next workshop.
For sure, water.
Yeah,
I can't see why it wouldn't be in sewer.
The map that they gave us that shows laid out what is and isn't.
I may actually be able to look that up. I've got some maps as part of what we're talking about, but
So the last thing, it's not a question, but I would recommend that we commit $50,000 and get those 25 extra points.
Melissa, I thought we talked, it was the max we could do was 25 match. It was got us the max.
When I double checked today, it was 50,000 for the max one. You could put
I
in less.
think we would want to. We've got the 100
infrastructure budget.
We've got the money there.
Or even our CRA budget. Yeah, CRA
Yes.
budget. So at the council meeting,
I'll double check that,
next week,
Jamie, before
I would bring that up. Mr. Booth.
Yes, sir. And just to go back to, I'm looking at our map of sewer connections, and it looks like that area's got a connection. That block has got a connection.
I just think it would help if you were able to put in your proposal that the city council has approved $50,000.
Yeah, and what we'll do is at next week's, council meeting, at the second public hearing, if you approve the application to be submitted, you would pass a resolution authorizing the submission of the application. You would also pass a resolution authorizing the use of city funds, as leverage in that. And then there would also be another resolution. It's so you don't have to amend your comp plan. It's just a community development plan. But I will provide all of those to, and I'll double check on that amount because I want to make sure that you're not having to commit more than you have to. But yeah, well, that would all be part of next week's public hearing.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mr. Booth, we may have to have a CRA meeting for 15 minutes with the CRA to approve it, to use CRA funds, and then the city council approves it. So you just get that procedurally right. We're gonna have to check with Rich Commander.
I don't know if you all are followed up. I mean, I think with the 155 or so that you've already got in infrastructure, I think that's what you'd want to target.
In our budget.
That's already budgeted. We don't have to
My
move it.
concern is about spending CRA money.
Mhm.
So that's where I would prefer the money come from. And it's in the air blighted area, and so that's.
And you could always move those funds. Like if you say you're gonna just put it under general funds in your resolution, you can always, if you're awarded the project, you can always move that from general funds into the CRA. But yeah, you're not committing that it has to come from that.
Okay.
You're just committing, you're saying you have the money in the general funds to do it, but then if you can transfer it over to another budget line item, you can do that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Excellent. Learned a lot, but I didn't think of any of that.
Good.
All right.
All right, I think we close out this.
All right.